you in your tracks when the cards confirm it. You are the first person ever to reach inside this person and move something that had never been moved before. The Tower is the first card on the table, and it is not here as a warning, it is here as an explanation. This card shows up when something arrives that is more powerful than the structure holding a wall together, when a presence enters someone's life that makes protection feel smaller than the alternative. That is what you were to this person, the thing that made staying defended feel like the worst option. Everyone before you approached with something underneath their warmth, an agenda, a need, a version of themselves they were carefully presenting. You arrived without any of that, without performance, without calculation, without the particular subtle hunger this person had learned to detect from across a room. The Tower fell not because you dismantled it, but because your presence made standing inside it feel like a loss rather than a sheltered judgment comes in as the second card. And this is one of the most powerful cards this reading could have drawn for this position. Judgment is the card of a call that cuts through every layer of noise and numbness and self-protection a person has constructed around themselves over years. This person heard that call in you not as pressure, not as demand, but as a frequency they had never encountered before, one that reached a part of them they had quietly stopped believing was still accessible. Before you, they moved through life functional and present, capable of warmth in their particular way, but fundamentally at a distance from themselves, watching their own experience from behind something invisible. The Judgment card says that distance is gone now, not temporarily, not situationally, but in the permanent way of someone who has been woken up and cannot go back to sleep. The Four of Wands sits as the third card in this opening, carrying the energy of homecoming, of a person arriving somewhere and recognizing, without needing to think about it, that this is where they were supposed to land. This is not a card of excitement or novelty. It is the card of settling, of the specific and unmistakable feeling a person gets when the searching stops. Even if they never knew they were searching, they experience that with you, not in one single moment, but repeatedly, consistently, every time they were in your orbit. There is also a quality of astonishment underneath all three of these cards, something this person did not expect, something that arrived before any defense was ready. They were caught off guard by how quickly something inside them recognized you, caught off guard by how much they wanted to be known by you specifically, caught off guard by the fact that the wall, which had held for so long, was simply not interested in holding anymore. That astonishment has since settled into something examined and certain, something they have turned over from every angle and arrived at the same place about every time. The cards are not showing a heart in the process of deciding. They are showing a heart that decided the moment you appeared and has been deepening that decision quietly in every single way that counts. The gratitude this person carries has no clean name yet. It lives in the chest as something they keep reaching for words to describe and always fall short of. What you unlocked in them is not a feeling that shifts with circumstance. It is a structural change, the kind that rewrites what a person believes they are capable of feeling. The version of this person that existed before you, the one who had perfected the art of being warm without being reachable, is genuinely no longer the version that exists today. Something replaced it, something more honest with itself, more willing to extend toward what it wants without pulling the extension back, more interested in being present than in being safe. You are the reason for that, not because of anything you tried to do, but because of the specific and unmistakable way you are when simply being yourself. The Judgment energy is still active, still ringing, which tells me this awakening is ongoing, deepening every time something reminds them of what they feel. Every time you cross their mind, something in them becomes more certain, more clear about what it wants and what it is no longer willing to pretend it does not want. There is a permanence in this that the cards are deliberate about naming. A quality that says this change is not seasonal, not dependent on things staying easy, not something that reverses when life gets complicated. It is rooted in exactly who you are, and in all you brought into their life by simply showing up as yourself. Now we sit with your side of this, with what you have been carrying through this connection, and with what it took to be the person who got here. The Strength card is the first one showing for you, and in this position, it is not speaking about force or dominance. It is speaking about something far more precise. Strength in this reading is about your capacity to remain genuinely open in situations that would have closed most people down. Your ability to stay warm and present without hardening, without building the kind of protective distance that would have made you unreachable too. That quality in you is rarer than you probably understand, because most people who have moved through real emotional difficulty eventually develop a subtle coolness that sits just underneath their warmth, a quiet flinch that happens before they even know it is happening. You did not allow that to govern how you showed up here. You came to this connection without the performance of someone trying to impress, without the strategy of someone managing a desired outcome, simply as yourself, fully and without adjustment. This person registered that immediately, even before their mind had language for what felt different. Something in them recognized your particular quality of presence as unlike anything they had experienced before. It felt trustworthy in the specific way that genuine things feel trustworthy. Not comfortable in the sense of unchallenging, but real in the sense of something you can actually stand on without it shifting beneath you. The Seven of Cups appears as the second card in your energy, and it is being honest about something that has lived quietly inside you throughout this entire connection. There have been moments where you were not entirely certain what was real here. Moments where you looked at what existed between you and wondered whether you were reading it accurately, whether what you felt and sensed and quietly hoped was present on the other side was actually there, or whether you were giving shape to something that lived more fully in your own interior than in the genuine exchange between you. That uncertainty was not loud, it was private. The particular kind that belongs to someone careful enough with their own heart to not fully commit to a story until the story demonstrates something real. That carefulness is not a flaw in you, it is discernment that was earned through experience. The kind that knows the difference between what is true and what you simply want to be true. The Queen of Pentacles arrives as the third card, and she is showing me who you have been throughout this entire process, grounded in your own worth, even when clarity about this person was slower to arrive than you would have liked. The Queen of Pentacles does not collapse into doubt. She does not perform enthusiasm. She does not feel. She does not make herself smaller to fit a space, not designed for her full presence. She inhabits her own value with a quiet and undemonstrative certainty. That is who you have been here, present and genuinely invested without making your presence conditional on receiving a particular response back. Whole within yourself, even while caring deeply about how this unfolded. This person encountered something in you they had no framework for, because every connection before you carried some version of need underneath it, someone present because the alternative cost more than staying. You brought something categorically different. You chose this person from a place of fullness rather than from scarcity, and that distinction is something a guarded heart feels before the mind can find words for it. Being genuinely chosen by someone who did not need to choose them is one of the most quietly destabilizing experiences a closed-off person can have, because it removes every explanation they have relied on for why real love does not actually happen. The cards are showing your uncertainty dissolving now, replaced by something far more settled and more sure, something that has finally received enough evidence to stop questioning what it already knows at its very deepest level. There is also a quality in your energy that speaks to the particular kind of courage it takes to remain invested in something that had not yet fully shown its hand, to keep showing up with your whole self when the outcome was still unclear. That is not naivety. That is the specific bravery of someone who knows their own discernment well enough to trust it, who sensed something real before it was fully visible and chose to honor that sensing rather than retreat from it into something more predictable and safer. The reading has not finished with your side of the story. There is more that belongs specifically to you here, More that will become clear and fully visible as we go deeper into what has actually been happening on the other side of this connection, and what that means for everything that comes next. Now we turn fully to their side, to the interior of this person before you arrived, and to the specific history that makes what happened between you so significant. The Hermit is the first card showing for them, and this card is not subtle about what it describes. The Hermit is the card of someone who withdrew, not casually, not temporarily, but with the particular deliberateness of a person who made a decision at some point that the version of themselves which wanted openly and showed it honestly was a version that kept getting damaged. This person learned through experiences that left real marks that reaching toward others in the full and unguarded way genuine connection requires was something that reliably ended in loss of some kind, a loss of dignity, a loss of reciprocity, or the loss of the specific person they had allowed themselves to care about. The lesson they drew from those experiences was the kind that settles into the body before the mind has processed it, the kind that starts making decisions on your behalf before you realize it has taken over. They stopped reaching, not loudly, not dramatically, but in the quiet and functional way of someone who restructures their life around avoiding a particular kind of pain, remaining present and warm enough to operate, but fundamentally held back, never fully in, always maintaining the interior distance that kept the most vulnerable part of them out of range. The Five of Swords reversed comes in as the second card, and this is the card of a conflict that finally ends, of someone laying down the particular battle they have been running inside themselves for far too long. There was a war happening in this person before you between the part that genuinely wanted closeness and the part that had appointed itself the protector against it, between the part that ached to be known and the part that made sure the conditions for being known were never fully met. That internal conflict was exhausting in the way that all long-running battles are draining energy that could have gone somewhere meaningful, keeping them at a low-grade distance from their own life. You brought that conflict to resolution, not by fighting it directly, not by pressing against the resistance, but by being something that made the resistance feel like the wrong choice. The Five of Swords reversed says the battle is over, that the part protecting against love has stood down, that what you offered was simply more compelling than the story they had been telling themselves about why love was not available to them. The Eight of Cups reversed appears as the third card, and this is one of the most telling cards this reading could have placed in this position. The Eight of Cups upright is walking away, leaving something behind because continuing it would cost more than ending it. And this person had that pattern in their history, retreating before things became fully real, finding a reason to go before they could be asked to stay. Reversed, the card flips the entire motion entirely. It is the card of someone who started to leave and turned around, who felt the familiar pull toward retreat and chose, for the first time, to move toward instead. There was a moment with you where this person began the internal motion of withdrawal, the familiar sequence of putting distance between themselves and something that had gotten close enough to feel risky. The difference this time was that completing that withdrawal, returning to the life that existed before you were in it, felt worse than the vulnerability of staying present. That is the pivot point, the private moment where everything changed, where the pattern that had defined every previous connection broke, because you made the alternative feel more costly than the risk. The gratitude they carry for that shift has no clean shape yet. It is the gratitude of someone who did not know they were trapped until something showed them what the door looked like. There is also something underneath all three of these cards that I want to name, a quality that runs through the entire history of this person before you arrived. They had become genuinely convinced, not intellectually, but in the deeper way that shapes behavior, that what they felt was simply too much for most people to hold without eventually pulling back from it. Every previous connection had confirmed this in some way, and so the practical conclusion they arrived at was containment. Keep the interior hidden, give people only what they can manage, and avoid the particular cost of offering your full self to someone who cannot receive it. You change that conclusion entirely, not by telling them it was wrong, but by creating conditions where revealing themselves felt safer than concealing. Changing that kind of settled conclusion is one of the rarest things one person can do for another, and you did it simply by being fully, honestly, and entirely who you are. Something is in motion now, not building toward action, not approaching a decision, but already moving, already expressing itself in ways that are beginning to show up in the real texture of how this person is showing up with you. The Knight of Pentacles is the first card in this position, and this is a card that most people underestimate when it appears in a love reading. This is not the Knight of grand declarations or sweeping romantic gestures. This is the knight who shows up consistently, without fanfare, without needing recognition for every effort. The one who does the quiet and unglamorous daily work of making another person feel like they genuinely matter. The Knight of Pentacles is telling me that what is coming is not a single moment, not one conversation that changes everything, but a sustained and deliberate pattern of showing up in ways that accumulate into something undeniable. You are about to experience a version of this person that is more intentional than anything they have offered before, more attuned to the specific details of who you are and what you need, more present in the particular way of someone who has decided that you deserve their full attention rather than a managed portion of it. If you have been paying attention to how they have shown up historically, you are going to notice the shift, because what is coming will not look like who they were before any of this changed in them. The Emperor arrives as the second card, and this is a card of someone taking something formless and internal and beginning to give it structure in the real world. The Emperor does not sit with feelings indefinitely. He builds around them, organizes his life to reflect his priorities, treats what matters as something to honor through action rather than hold privately. This person has already begun doing that with what they feel for you, making decisions, small and large, that reflect a priority they have never had before, structuring their time and attention and energy in ways that center on what they are building toward. There are choices being made right now that you do not fully know about yet, and you are not on the periphery of the picture they are building. You are central to it. The Emperor energy says they are treating this as real, not as a possibility to keep in reserve, not as something to revisit when the timing feels perfect, but as something already underway, already being built, already being taken seriously in the practical decisions of daily life. The Ace of Wands sits as the third card, and this card carries a specific kind of ignition energy, the first spark of something with genuine heat behind it. The kind that once it catches does not die out quietly on its own. The Ace of Wands is marking a beginning, not the beginning of what they feel, that began a long time ago, but the beginning of what they are going to do with what they feel. The movement from internal to expressed, from private to visible, from known only to them to something you are going to be able to see and respond to. Something is about to be said or done or offered, something that closes a gap that has existed between you, something that makes a previously unspoken truth spoken in a way that does not leave room for misinterpretation. The energy behind it will not be tentative or carefully hedged. It will carry the specific warmth and directness of someone who has finished deliberating and is ready to let you see what they have been carrying. Underneath all three of these cards, there is a momentum that is different from anything in the earlier parts of this reading, because earlier we were in the territory of history and internal change, and now we are in the territory of what actually happens next. What is about to come from this person is not performance. It is not calculated to produce a particular response. It is overflow, the natural overflow of someone who has been containing something larger than containment can hold. The courage that was missing before is present now, the specific courage required to let you see that they care more than they have been showing, present in a way it has never been in this person before. They are ready to hand it to you directly, in the real, unhesitating way of someone who has stopped needing everything to be perfectly timed before being fully honest about what is true. The gap between what is felt and what is expressed is closing faster than it ever has. And what arrives on the other side is going to land in a place in you that has been waiting for exactly this kind of evidence. Not the grand kind, not the performative kind, but the sustained, deliberate, patient kind that proves itself real without ever once being asked to. This is the part where we go underneath everything visible, underneath what has been expressed and what has been shown, into the territory of what this person has never handed to anyone before. The High Priestess is the first card in this position, and she is one of the most significant cards this reading could have placed here. The High Priestess is the card of what lives in the deep interior of a person below the level of what gets shared in ordinary conversation, below the level of what even close people usually get to see in the specific sacred space of someone's most private knowing. This person has an interior world that very few people have ever been allowed access to, a richness in how they think and feel and interpret their experience that they learned long ago to keep mostly to themselves. It had been mishandled before, offered to people who received it carelessly, or who used it in ways that made the offering feel like a mistake. And so the practical conclusion they arrived at was to keep the deepest parts protected, to let the surface be enough, to save the real interior for a safety that never quite arrived. With you, something different has been happening, moments where something slipped through that was more honest than what they usually offer. A thought they shared that surprised even them. A feeling they named out loud that had never been named to anyone before. Instead of retreating from those moments, instead of pulling back and apologizing for too much, they noticed that you received what came through without making it strange, without turning it into something to analyze or hold over them, without making them feel like they had miscalculated by being real. The High Priestess says that noticing changed something at a foundational level. It told them that the interior, the real and protected one, might actually be safe here, with you specifically, in a way it has not been safe anywhere before. The Five of Cups reversed arrives as the second card, and this card is carrying a confession that this person has not said out loud to you. There has been grief in this person, quiet and private grief carried in the way of someone who processes things alone. Old losses from connections that ended in ways that confirmed their fears about what happens when you let people in. What they have never told you is that you make that grief feel smaller, not by distracting them from it, not by replacing it with something louder, but because being around you makes the future feel more significant than the past. For the first time in a long time, what is ahead feels more real and more worth moving toward than what was lost or what did not work out. And they carry that privately as one of the most significant things that has ever shifted in them. The Two of Cups comes in as the third card, and this is the card of genuine mutual recognition, of two people seeing each other truly without distortion, without the filter of what they need the other person to be. The confession this card is holding is the simplest and the most powerful one this person carries, which is that they see you, not a version of you assembled from their own projections, not a version adjusted to fit what they were hoping for, but actually you specifically and entirely. They love what they see, not in spite of any of it, not by overlooking the parts that are complicated or contradictory or difficult, but because of all of it. Because the whole and actual version of you is the thing they fell for. That is the truth. They have not yet found the right moment to say directly that their feeling for you is not fragile or conditional, that it does not depend on you remaining easy or uncomplicated, that it is rooted in the real version of who you are and is not going anywhere. There is one more confession underneath all three of these cards. One that does not belong to a single card, but runs through all of them. This person is proud of themselves in a way they have never been before, proud in the quiet way of someone who recognizes they did something difficult, that they stayed when everything in their history was trained to leave, that they opened when every previous version of themselves would have closed. They did that because of you, because something in them decided you were worth the risk of being fully known, worth the vulnerability of letting someone see the interior they have spent years keeping sealed. That decision to stay open is the deepest thing they carry right now, deeper than anything they have shown you, deeper than anything they have said. The cards are showing a person who has never felt this before, this specific combination of being seen and being safe at the same time, who understands that what they feel for you is not something that arrived and will eventually pass. It arrived and settled, the way things settle when they have found the place they were always meant to land. We have arrived at the final part of this reading, and before the last cards come through, I want to sit with everything that has been confirmed across all 5 parts. A person who had never opened for you. A pattern that had defined every previous connection in their life broke because of you. A heart that had decided, based on real evidence over real time, that staying closed was the only intelligent option, changed its mind completely because of who you are and how you showed up. That is what this reading has been tracing from the very beginning, and it deserves to be held fully before we look at where it is all going. The Six of Pentacles is the first card in this closing position, and this card is about an exchange, a genuine and balanced exchange between two people who are both giving and both receiving in real measure. What this card is describing is the near future of this connection, not one person carrying the emotional weight while the other receives, not one person reaching while the other considers whether to reach back, but something genuinely reciprocal, something where what you give lands somewhere and is met with equal care. There have been chapters in your life where your capacity for love and your depth of presence exceeded what you were given back, where the balance was quietly off in ways that cost you something over time. The Six of Pentacles is describing a different chapter now. One where this person brings everything they have unlocked in themselves directly back to you consistently, as a practice, as something they have already committed to internally, even before all the words have been said. The star arrives as the second card, and when the star appears as an outcome card in a reading like this one, it carries a very specific quality of light. The star is restoration, not the dramatic kind. Not the kind that arrives with announcement, but the quiet kind. The kind where something you thought you had lost or perhaps never fully had is simply returned to you in the ordinary light of a day that felt like any other. What is being restored to you through this connection is a trust in love itself, not a naive trust, not the kind that ignores what is real, but a grounded and evidence-based trust that love like this exists, and that you are someone it chooses. That the careful and patient and honest way you have moved through your own life has not been for nothing, that it has been bringing you steadily and without drama to exactly the right door. The Nine of Pentacles closes this reading as the final card, and it is one of the most quietly powerful cards this deck could have chosen for this position. The Nine of Pentacles is the card of someone who has arrived at a life that genuinely reflects who they are, someone who built, through patience and self-knowledge, and the refusal to settle for what did not fit, something that sustains and something that does not require them to be smaller than they actually are. This card is not only about the connection, it is about the version of yourself that arrives alongside it, more settled in your own worth, more at ease with being fully chosen, more willing to inhabit what you deserve without the particular exhaustion of constantly second-guessing whether you are allowed to have it. That version of you is already here. She did not arrive with fanfare. She arrived quietly somewhere in the middle of everything you have navigated and decided to stay. The guidance this reading closes with is simple, and it is this. Let yourself be loved the way this person is learning to love you, not with one part of you always watching for the moment. The feeling changes not with the protective distance that kept you safe in earlier chapters, but with the same quality of presence and openness that changed their heart in the first place. Because what is coming deserves to be received fully, and the person receiving it deserves to feel every part of what it means to finally be loved in the way they always should have been. Thank you for being here for this reading. If something in here landed for you, leave it in the comments. It means more than you know. Like and subscribe if you are new. There is so much more coming your way, and I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. What you did for this person, simply by being who you are, is something most people spend a lifetime hoping will happen to them. You reached the unreachable part not with strategy, not with effort, but with the specific and unmistakable realness of who you actually are. The love coming back to you is not luck. It is what happens when a person of real depth finally meets someone who can hold that depth without needing it to be different. You are that person for them. They are becoming that person for you. Receive it fully. A person who had never opened for you. A pattern that had defined every previous connection in their life broke because of you. A heart that had decided, based on real evidence over real time, that staying closed was the only intelligent option changed its mind completely because of who you are and how you showed up. That is what this reading has been tracing from the very beginning, and it deserves to be held fully before we look at where it is all going. The Six of Pentacles is the first card in this closing position, and this card is about an exchange, a genuine and balanced exchange between two people who are both giving and both receiving in real measure. What this card is describing is the near future of this connection, not one person carrying the emotional weight while the other receives, not one person reaching while the other considers whether to reach back, but something genuinely reciprocal, something where what you give lands somewhere and is met with equal care. There have been chapters in your life where your capacity for love and your depth of presence exceeded what you were given back, where the balance was quietly off in ways that cost you something over time. The Six of Pentacles is describing a different chapter now. One where this person brings everything they have unlocked in themselves directly back to you consistently, as a practice, as something they have already committed to internally, even before all the words have been said. The star arrives as the second card, and when the star appears as an outcome card in a reading like this one, it carries a very specific quality of light. The star is restoration, not the dramatic kind. Not the kind that arrives with announcement, but the quiet kind. The kind where something you thought you had lost or perhaps never fully had is simply returned to you in the ordinary light of a day that felt like any other. What is being restored to you through this connection is a trust in love itself, not a naive trust, not the kind that ignores what is real, but a grounded and evidence-based trust that love like this exists, and that you are someone it chooses. That the careful and patient and honest way you have moved through your own life has not been for nothing, that it has been bringing you steadily and without drama to exactly the right door. The Nine of Pentacles closes this reading as the final card, and it is one of the most quietly powerful cards this deck could have chosen for this position. The Nine of Pentacles is the card of someone who has arrived at a life that genuinely reflects who they are, someone who built, through patience and self-knowledge, and the refusal to settle for what did not fit, something that sustains and something that does not require them to be smaller than they actually are. This card is not only about the connection, it is about the version of yourself that arrives alongside it, more settled in your own worth, more at ease with being fully chosen, more willing to inhabit what you deserve without the particular exhaustion of constantly second-guessing whether you are allowed to have it. That version of you is already here. She did not arrive with fanfare. She arrived quietly somewhere in the middle of everything you have navigated and decided to stay. The guidance this reading closes with is simple, and it is this. Let yourself be loved the way this person is learning to love you, not with one part of you always watching for the moment. The feeling changes not with the protective distance that kept you safe in earlier chapters, but with the same quality of presence and openness that changed their heart in the first place. Because what is coming deserves to be received fully, and the person receiving it deserves to feel every part of what it means to finally be loved in the way they always should have been. Thank you for being here for this reading. If something in here landed for you, leave it in the comments. It means more than you know. Like and subscribe if you are new. There is so much more coming your way, and I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. What you did for this person, simply by being who you are, is something most people spend a lifetime hoping will happen to them. You reached the unreachable part not with strategy, not with effort, but with the specific and unmistakable realness of who you are.